Salutations, everyone. This is Razor here, bringing you another movie review. Where today I'm going to be going over Breaking Dawn Part 2, The Saga Ends. JK, I'm talking about The Hobbit today. Man, could you imagine? That would not be a video you could take seriously. I mean, I would unsubscribe for myself. But anyways, today we're going to talk about The Hobbit. I wanted to get this video out earlier. I wanted to get it out last Thursday before the movie came out, but that didn't work, and just kept putting it off, but finally bringing it to you guys. So sorry, better late than never. But as I promised, that the next two movies that I saw that were based off books, I will have had read that book. And this one was pretty easy because who didn't read The Hobbit when they were like 10, 11 years old? I mean, come on, it's a classic. It is an important part of literature, and it's one of those books that you just have to read. It's like freaking Tom Sawyer, or fucking Mice and Men. It's The Hobbit. It's a classic. And here's the movie adaptation. For those of you who may not know, some people think that this is a prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and in a way it is, but The Hobbit came first. Okay, this was the original masterpiece that everyone loved, and then later on, Tolkien wrote the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, going into this, knowing this, and having been a fan of the books, especially The Hobbit is by far the best book of them all. So, it was going to be a good movie. And, they decided to put it into 3 parts, which is, wow, I didn't see that coming. That'll be interesting to see how that works out later on down the road, but part 1 is out. It stopped at a pretty good point. I thought there was 2 points that I thought that the movie would break at, and it ended up breaking in between those 2, which I thought was actually even better. But let's talk about the film. Of course, directed by Peter Jackson. Once again, you have all the returning characters that you need. You got Galadriel, you got Magneto, you got Count Dooku, you got Agent Smith, who kills Neo in the beginning of the book. For those of you who haven't read the book, you need to know that in order for the beginning of the movie to make sense. But anyways, they got the returning cast as well as the new characters are absolutely great choices. I thought it was a great job on the casting. The directing, of course, is top notch. No surprises here. It is Peter Jackson doing what he does. It is not a disappointment from a directorial standpoint. Of course, this being based off the book, of course, the book is always better. But I think they did a rather good job, and it's very interesting that they're breaking this into 3 movies. So that'll be great to see how that goes. There were some parts of the movie that I didn't like as much as people who haven't read the books might enjoy. And there were some parts that I think they did a superb job on. There were some parts that were exactly how I envisioned. There were some parts that were actually even better than the way I envisioned. And there were some parts that were really disappointing. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything here because this book is like 1,000 years old. If you don't want any spoilers about the film, I'm still going to be rather vague and not give any, real spoilers. But I'm just going to talk about some parts of the movie here. The scene with the trolls. It is one of the most classic parts in literature. It really is. It's one of the most copied, referenced. It's one of the most important scenes in literature with the trolls and Bilbo, and I don't think that they did that scene as well as it should have been. It failed on comedic levels that the book just blows away, and I know you can't expect it to be as good as the book, and I never do. Going into a movie, I never expect it as being as good as the book. It could try its hardest, and even if something falls short of an amazing book, it can still be a really good movie, and that's what this is. But with that scene in particular, I was rather disappointed because it just didn't seem to do that scene justice. It didn't work the way that I thought it did in the book. It was done well enough. They definitely could have done worse, but that was one of the scenes that I had a problem with. There was another scene that is very, very short. A lot of people won't catch it, but if you know Tolkien and his work, and you know that The Hobbit came before, and he had no intentions of making the Lord of the Rings trilogy until years later. He saw the ring that Bilbo got in The Hobbit and then decided that it was more than just a ring that made you invisible. This was decided after The Hobbit, but unfortunately, the movie kind of makes it seem like it was all a grand scheme. It was all part of the plan. So, it's not just a movie by itself and a prequel to the trilogy. It also seems like it's trying to bridge some things together, which moviegoers might enjoy. But if you're not a fan of parts of the book being slightly altered, then you're not gonna like this as much. So, all of the super, Tolkien tryhards, the nerds that don't want anything to be messed with, are gonna be disappointed by this a little bit. It is very minute, but it's still something that caught my eye that I did not care for. But it's a very small part. The scene with Smeagol, Gollum, whatever you want to call him, of course in this book it's Gollum. There was no intentions of him being, a river-dwelling hobbit in the first place. But regardless, the scene with Gollum was absolutely perfect. It was exactly how I envisioned it. The scene with the rocks, don't want to do any spoilers, but if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I mean. The scene with all the rocks, I thought was amazing. That was much better than I even envisioned. I thought the part in Rivendell was great. They did a lot of dedicated fan service in that portion, and that took place in Rivendell, that really got into the lore of Lord of the Rings. So that's definitely be something that Tolkien fans are going to appreciate, as well as myself. The acting was great. The direction was great. The writing was good enough. Not as comedic in some parts as it should be. So that was a little bit of a fail on the comedy scale, where but they tried to fill in those discrepancies with some stuff that they added in by themselves, which was an okay part. But still, of course, not as good as the book, but I didn't expect it to be. It's still a good movie. It was a good representation of the book. It's nice that, since it's going to be split into 3 books, I don't know exactly how that's going to work, or 3 movies. I don't know how exactly that's going to work, but at least they'll be able to include everything that they want to, which is absolutely great. I don't know how they're going to do it. But they have no excuse to not include everything that they need to include, and I didn't feel that there was anything in this particular first part of the what's going to be a trilogy, I guess now, of one story. I didn't feel like there was any parts missing that were crucial to the story or development of characters. At least I thought. Some people, of course, are going to disagree with me, and we all don't have the same thoughts on books and movies, which is, fine. It's great to debate and have conversations with people about films and books and, adaptations of them. But this is definitely a positive review. It's not the best film of the year by any means, but it's definitely, I guess I could say it's the best fantasy film, since the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out. I really can't think of anything that can compete with Tolkien books being adapted into movies. And Peter Jackson did such a great job with the trilogy that you knew he was going to do The Hobbit justice, and he honestly did his best. And it really shows the direction was really good. The fight scenes were great. There are some parts that are a little disappointing, but there are some parts that are absolutely awesome and even better than you might envision it to be. And overall, good film. You should definitely see it. The acting is there. They make you care about the characters. There's enough backstory. There's enough Lord of the Rings lore in there to keep the fans satisfied, and enough to keep just partial, moviegoers to be satisfied as well, who may not know the books or necessarily have read them or are fans of them, but like the movies, those people will be satisfied enough as well. I thought it was, a good blend of things to make everyone happy. Of course, a lot of the nerds aren't going to like that. They want it to be exactly how they envisioned. But those kind of people will always be disappointed because everyone has a different vision about how their favorite subject matter will be translated to the big screen. But I thought overall it was a good job. Good movie. Definitely go see it. It's the only thing for us to watch. From the past week and probably until Christmas, where Les Mis and Django Unchained come out. But I think I will have a movie review before then on a movie based off the book that I have also read. But we'll see what happens then. Final score here is 47-18, confirms, denies. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next time.